If this goes on, don't panic. Bringing hope to the world through speculative fiction.
Hello and welcome to episode 31. In this episode, we have author Zig Zag Claybourne with us. So, Kat, how are things going?
They are going reasonably well. The summer has rocketed by with amazing speed. My kitchen remodel from hell that took 2 goddamn months is finally done, and I have my kitchen back. Oh, God.
Oh, my gosh. Kat, I can so relate to that right now. We are having our bathroom remodeled, and we only have one bathroom.
Oh, God. Oh, I can't even imagine. No,
Yes.
yeah. Oh.
And so we, the first week, they're working along, tore everything out, whatever. Then my family got COVID, so they had to take a week off while we recovered from COVID.
Yeah.
Then they came back for a week, and then they got COVID, and so then they had to take a week off. Meanwhile, we have no bathroom. No bathroom.
Yeah. Oh, it's just, well, I the house that I bought here is 99 years old.
Yeah.
And the thing that I'm finding is any repair sort of sets off a chain of other repairs. Just like, let's fix the wiring. Oh, look, there's things in the wall. Like, oh, shit, and you're just like, oh, God. So, yeah, a momentary lull for that, which is lovely.
Oh, yeah. This is the last thing for us. We took all of our COVID money from sitting around doing nothing for 2 years and put it into the house. And
Yeah.
You reading anything good right now?
I am reading an amazing book called Battle of the Linguist Mages by Scotto Moore, which features sentient punctuation marks and Queen of Sparkle Dungeon. So I highly recommend it. I'm not done with it. I'm about halfway through, and it is just slaying me. Love it.
Wow, that sounds completely insane.
How about you? What are you reading?
I am reading the 3rd Expanse novel right now.
Ah, good choice.
Yep, and I also
only 6 more after that.
Yeah, only 6 more. So we're getting towards the middling part. I'm actually very anxious to get past the TV show, because the TV show was so close to the books, at least up to book 3. Yeah. I'm kind of like, what's going to happen after that? Excited. I'm also reading the 10th novel in the Amber Chronicles series.
Oh, good stuff. Classic stuff.
Yeah, modern classic, I guess, and an old school classic. And then it's back to reading for interviews and reviews and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So are you ready for our guest today?
I am, and I'm super excited.
Yeah, Zig Zag Claybourne is our guest today. Mm-hmm. And we've had him on before. So if you want to hear our old interview with him, you can go back and look at that. That was in our first year. Probably in the first 10 episodes, I would guess, somewhere back there. So go and check that out. I remember him saying all kinds of very wise things about Star Trek. And I can't wait to talk more about Star Trek and hear some more wisdom from Zig Zag. Before we get to Zig Zag, I just want to say 2 things really quick, just like short announcements. Number 1, don't forget we have a new YouTube channel. It has a few, I don't know what you call them, watchers or listeners or whatever.
Subscribers.
Subscribers. There you go. Subscribers. And so, if you prefer YouTube, go and check us out there. And also, I just want a slight apology. We recorded the last episode, and the day that we recorded the last episode, I found out I had COVID. And so since then, I've been pretty sporadic about things, and we're behind schedule like crazy. So just apologies to the listeners. I am just finally now starting to get over COVID, and I haven't been tired for 4 days. So, I mean, not abnormally tired for 4 days. That's my record since that happened a month ago. So we're getting back into shape. We'll get there, hang in there, and let me heal up just a little bit more, and we'll be back to normal. So thanks for that.
Nice.
Okay, so when we get back, we will have Zig Zag Claybourne.
Yay!
Okay, and we are back with Zig Zag Claybourne. Zig Zag is the author of the brothers Jetstream Leviathan and its sequel, Afro Puffs Are the Antennae of the Universe. Other works include By All Our Violent Guides, Neon Lights, and Conversations with Idris. His stories and essays have appeared in Apex, Realm, Galaxy's Edge, I don't even know how to pronounce it, Giganotosaurus? Giganotosaurus?
That's it.
That's it?
Giganotosaurus.
Oh, okay, excellent. Strange Horizons, the year's best African speculative fiction, which we reviewed, by the way, and other genre venues. He is a 2021 Kresge Foundation Literary Fellow. He grew up watching The Twilight Zone and considers himself a better person for it. Welcome, Zig.
Thank you. Welcome to you guys to this, what is it, year 35 of the pandemic? Good to hear your voices.
Likewise. I made it to year 2.5 before I got, or I guess 35 before I got the plague.
Oh, God.
Damn it.
I know. I've been lucky so far. I mean, I'm kind of like, I've been the anti-vampire where instead of, invite me in, don't invite me. Just let me stay in this little bubble of health. So far, so good.
That's what I've been doing. Although, I mean, like when I go out to grocery shop or whatever, I mask so diligently.
Oh, yeah, mask on the face, knee pads, everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the same. That's why we cannot figure out how I got it. I had like a minor surgery I don't even know what it would be now, a few months ago maybe, and I guess over a month ago. And we think maybe I got it from there, but it's like the time doesn't really line up exactly right. You know what I mean? Because it would have been like 14 days after I got it, which I guess is barely in the realm of possibility, but it is in the realm of possibility.
Yeah, and that's the thing about these diseases. These little tiny life forms are very sneaky. It takes a half a millisecond for one to decide to slide up your nose.
Yeah.
Because we're the same. We mask everywhere, don't go anywhere. So Zig, let's not talk about me and my plague problems. Let's talk about you. I don't think the first time you were here, I don't think we asked you, your origin story. Like, why are you a writer? How did you become a writer? The full thing. I know you were inspired by Star Trek to some degree, but beyond that, I don't really know your backstory. Why don't we start there?
Well, no radiation involved. It's just basically mom. How every writer starts off with, there's a family member who says, you read so much, you write so much, you should become a writer. Mm-hmm. And same with me. My mother would take us to the library all the time. That was one of my favorite things to do as a kid. Saturdays was library day. We would walk from our house to the library about a quarter mile away, come back with a big bag of those red library bags, those plastic ones that you put around your wrist, and then they would cut off your circulation, but you didn't care because you had books. And that was my inception. Just this love of the word. I love how words became ideas, became thoughts, became realities. And that's been my mojo ever since.
Nice.
Well, if your words ever became reality, I don't know. I think I'd be a little frightened.
I always tell people the Brothers Jetstream is not fiction, because every week something comes out in the news like, oh, by the way, we've got new evidence that Loch Ness Monster might be real. We've got evidence of stuff in space that, it's right next door to us. Everything that I've kind of threw into the Brothers Jetstream as a kitchen sink book, I'm just going to throw it all in there. It's kind of like, popping up into the real world. Maybe this is kind of like one of those everything, everywhere, all at once things where I'm pulling little ideas out from my other heads in the other universes. That would be kind of cool.
I like that you called it a kitchen sink book, because it really is. I mean, you have Bigfoot, you have sentient inanimate objects, you have superhero-esque people, you have vampires, you have, I don't know.
Oh, wait, no, we got to stop you. We got to stop you. They would not want you pronouncing it vampire. They are the vampire.
Right.
That's right.
The vampire, they're very particular about that.
They are. They even discuss that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Very important, very important. Why go that route?
Because every writer has that kitchen sink book in them, but a lot of them are afraid to write it because, number one, they think it won't sell. Because I did this independently just because I wanted to basically throw the finger up at all these action movies that were coming out that were just like cookie cutter.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, okay, if I want to do an action movie, big blockbuster movie in a book, throw every trope in it that I can think of that these movies do, but turn it on its side just a little bit so that, you're not just consuming it with your eyes open and brain shut down. You're having fun with it as you go. And, there's nothing more fun than getting to play in the kitchen sink full of bubbles and water.
Yeah, you definitely do that for sure. I do want to come back to you being independent at some point during this conversation, but first I want to talk about your unique style and voice, because for me, not only does all the kitchen sink stuff, make it kind of unique in a way, because I've not read too many books where I think they've just thrown everything, but really you have such a unique style and voice, in my opinion. And for anyone who hasn't read any of Zig Zag's Jetstream books, those are the ones I've read. They're kind of like, I would describe them as like Shaft meets superheroes. And then your shorter work that I've read, almost like prose poems.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to go lyrical when I'm doing shorter stuff for some reason. But the novels, even the fun ones, they still have that little lyrical musical quality to them. And I like to think of them as just big ass playgrounds. That's what they are, especially the Jetstream stuff, that whole universe there. It's just a big ass playground where you get to run into Buckaroo Banzai or Shaft or Blade or, any of these hero types that we have grown up with. And you get to see them a little bit more humanized than they normally are.
Yeah, Buckaroo Banzai is a good comparison too. I mean, very, very similar to that.
Oh, yeah.
How did you go about...
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Oh, no, the Jetstream book, the first one, was directly it's a direct homage to Buckaroo Banzai. I wouldn't have written The Brothers Jetstream if not for Buckaroo Banzai, because I love those 80s movies where, in a way, we're starting to see a little edge back toward that, like with Everything Everywhere All at Once and a few other movies that are coming out where they're just like, screw it. We are going to have some fun. We're not going to paint by numbers for you. And that's what, Buckaroo Banzai did that. It just dropped you in the movie and said, hold on, we're riding. Yeah. Big Trouble in Little China did that. Everything David Lynch did.
Yeah.
All those movies, it was like they were collaborations with the audience in a way, because they knew the audience knew the tropes. So why bang you over the head with, this laborious backstory about the hero? Let's just drop you in the movie. This is the hero. This is what the hero is going to do. And let's go. To this day, I think about Dr. Lizardo as one. You never truly got any idea of what Dr. Lizardo's deal was. They didn't just stop and tell you this is. They did the one scene where they showed you what happened, but even then, Dr. Lizardo was his own thing. He was just this goofy ass villain dropped in, and you accepted that.
Yeah.
Because in the older movies that Buckaroo Banzai was kind of riffing off, the villains were always, they were supposed to be these mad super geniuses, but they were always just these doofy ass guys. They were like the progenitors of Dr. Doofenshmirtz on Phineas and Ferb.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I love that. And man, Big Trouble in Little China was like, that to me, that was like a mind-altering movie when I saw it.
Oh, yeah.
I was probably like 12 when I saw it and was just like, what is this? This is amazing.
Yeah.
They did so many subversive things in that and played it off as just straight comedy. But you watch it today and you realize just what they were doing in that movie. It was a complete refutation of the stalwart white guy as the hero.
Yeah.
And it just worked beautifully. And they went 100% all in on it. They didn't walk up to the line and then pull back. They went all in. I mean, when Kurt Russell had the scene where he had the lipstick on his face, the entire action scene, I mean, you wouldn't get that these days.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you did, it would be like really obviously this kind of joke, and then they would have to refer back to it as a joke. You know what I mean? And
yes, they would just stomp it into the ground like, oh, ha, look, he's got lipstick on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it couldn't just be a thing that you saw. Yes.
Yeah.
Totally.
This is why I hope that all the gods of Hollywood stay asleep when it comes to doing a sequel to that movie. I heard they were talking about doing a remake, but I don't think it's come to, there's been nothing firm yet.
I don't know if that makes me horrified or excited. Yeah. I mean, it would depend on the director and the writers, I guess.
Yeah. It's like so many movies where the remake you could just be like, oh God, I'd rather be flayed alive than watch this. Or it could be like, this is amazing, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But since so many directors in Hollywood are like 13 years old now, I'm kind of leery.
Yeah.
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 I will say in Hollywood's defense a little bit, I mean, I'm really excited to watch Sandman. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but that is high on my list to watch. And by the time this episode comes out, hopefully I'll have seen it.
I'm watching it, and I absolutely adore the comics. So yes. I still kind of would go with the comics over what I'm watching, but it's not bad. Certainly. Are you watching it, Zig Zag?
Nope, I haven't started yet. And I'm one of the few who actually never read the comics back in the day.
Oh.
I've read bits and pieces here and there, but I've never got into the series. So
they're worth binging, in my opinion.
Yes.
Some lovely kind of long-term plot lines that go across multiple issues. They're really nicely done.
Okay, I'm going to have to check out the trade paperbacks on it.
Yeah, it's good. Check it out. Check it out for sure. I've read them multiple times, and they're just so great. I was never a huge comic book fan, and my friends handed those to me, and I was just like, oh, whatever. I guess I'll read them because they keep harping on me about it. And then I read them, and I was like, oh my God, this is a comic book? What is this?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Gaiman's novels have never done me wrong. So I mean, I love his writing.
No,
but
never.
Back then, I was a Marvel person, and I think Sandman came out via Vertigo, which was DC. I think.
Yeah.
So that side of the comic store, I shunned it.
Totally fair, but I have to ask you, why were you a Marvel man?
Marvel's writing was better. I mean, the storylines, and plus, I got to read books where characters would shout out Imperious Rex and stuff like that. Yeah. And I was a word geek, so I just love the fact that we had these, this muscle-bound dude in a Speedo with wings on his feet and Spock ears shouting out Imperious Rex every other panel.
Yeah.
It was such delicious candy. As DC was more frothy to me.
Yeah.
At the time. I did like the Flash because that it was frothy, but for some reason I love the idea of super speed. So Flash was my jam. Other than that, I just kind of like, I'll stick over here with Spider-Man and X-Men. And I'm kind of still the same way now. Like, I'll watch a DC movie if I have to, but
I will
DC
say,
call me.
Go ahead.
I was going to say DC can call me now and ask to make their Brothers Jetstream movie. That's how karma works these days.
Yeah. I know a lot of the DC executives listen to this podcast. You'd be surprised.
Yes, I have their personal emails and phone numbers, actually, Zig. So I'm going to have to report this to them, though. Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, I was always more of a Marvel fan. I was actually, I think I'm probably a little bit younger than you by a few years, but I started getting into the comics with Image a little bit, with the Spawn, like the really dark stuff, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And then my second preference was Marvel, and then DC, I just could not get into DC until college, and then the same group of friends that showed me Sandman also started saying, well, actually, some of the DC stuff is cool. It's like, and then they started trying to get me into like Green Lantern at the time. They thought was super cool. You know what I mean? And what else? I think that was right around when they had that Superman Martian Manhunter thing where what if Superman was a communist? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm. I just read the Nora Jemisin Green Lantern graphic novel, which was really good.
I've been meaning to grab that one.
It's awesome.
And that's one thing I love about just the comics now is that you, like I said, Marvel's writing to me back in the day. And when I say back in the day, I'm talking like late 70s, early 80s. That was when I was really into my comic phase. Mm-hmm. The writing was better. And now we've got writers like NK, we've got Nettie. Mm-hmm. You pick up a comic book now and it blows your mind, not just with the concepts, but with the language. And if I'd had books like those back in the day from DC, it would have been a whole different game.
Although Chip Delaney wrote 2 issues of Wonder Woman back in the day.
Really?
What?
Yes.
I did not know that.
I have one of them. I got him to sign it at a convention. He's like, "Where did you get it?" It's actually the cover includes the lines, the tag, "The Women's Lib" issue, which it just cracks me up. Yeah.
Oh, this is going to be a Google search for the ages tonight.
Yep.
I love that. Kat, you don't talk about your comic book fandom too much.
I'm a Marvel girl, and that is because of the X-Men and the Avengers, and my favorite group, which was you never hear about, the Defenders, which was a really kind of oddball, weird group that had at one point like the Son of Satan and the Happy-Go-Lucky Hellcat, and the Hulk ended up in there, and they were just all goofballs.
Yeah, it was the weirdest mix of characters.
Yes,
it was Valkyrie was in it for a while.
Yeah,
they took all these like secondary characters and said, "Hey, let's just put them together and see what happens." And it was cool.
It was almost like Big Brother with superheroes. Yeah.
Yeah, but you mentioned X-Men, Kat. Is that?
Oh yeah.
Now, are we talking the Claremont period?
We're talking I came into it with the Claremont John Byrne stuff, which was just so well read. It's so well written and just beautifully drawn. And there was like that whole Dark Phoenix storyline, just such great stuff.
It was. I think I reread that whole run. Had to be at least 10 times.
Yeah,
that was just that might be my favorite run of any comic series ever. The Dark Phoenix run.
Oh God, yeah. It takes such a long, it takes so long to unfold, and it's so nicely done, and it introduces so many characters that then sort of become staples for the X-Men, like Emma Frost.
Oh yes, the whole Hellfire Club.
Yeah.
And the art in that. Oh, John was at the top of his game for the art for that. I mean, that one panel of Wolverine in the sewers when they were fighting the Hellfire Club, that still is one of like the most used memes out there.
Yeah. Oh, such good stuff.
Yeah. Oh, my geek blood is boiling right now in a good way.
Perfect. Love it. Well, my original question was meant to be, with such a unique style, how did you develop it? I mean, there's no way you just come out of the gate writing a book like Jetstreams.
When it comes to the style for that book in particular, I wanted almost to have an anime in your brain as you read it. Mm-hmm. Because anime gives you these choppy scenes, these overwrought action scenes, and then they'll, on a dime, stop everything. But you still flow with it. There's this musicality to it almost. So that's where the style for Jetstreams came in, and my style in general is kind of a musical flow. I don't like writing in a way where I feel like I'm disrespecting the reader's intelligence, which, or maybe not even so much the intelligence, but just what they know, their cultural IQ. It's like there are certain things that most people either know or they, after a few beats, they can pick it up. So I like to write toward people who, if what was that old game show where they would play a few bars of a song and you had to name the song? I think it was Name That Song.
Yeah.
And that's how I like to write. It's like, I'm going to give you a few bars of this and you can carry the rest. So when I say playground for readers, I literally mean that. I want my readers to play with the words just as much as I am.
That's interesting.
I think.
Did that answer the question, or was that just like all around the park dropping ice cream and
I thought that was really good, and it kind of leads me into a question I would like to ask, which is that it feels to me as though you write with great joy, and that you enjoy kind of playing. And so I would suspect that you're someone who sort of leaps into the writing rather than working with a solid outline. Can you talk a little bit about your writing process?
100% pantser. I leap in, I get a feeling, and I go from there. I mean, when I first started writing, I was, because that's how it's taught. You sit down, you get an outline going, and you plot out the book. And I can still do that if I have to, but I find so much more joy in just, getting that spark of inspiration and saying, what can I do with this? And I mean, generally speaking, you can do a lot with those tiny sparks,
right? Without
having to build a fire pit around it first to contain it. You just let that sucker go, and you come up with some genius stuff. And I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about. I mean, I just finished Nicola Griffith's Spear not too long ago.
Oh, love her stuff.
I've been hearing a lot about that one.
Oh, buy it, read it, give it to somebody, buy another copy, and read it again. I love it. It's that good, and there's such a sense of fun and exploration to it. I mean, I don't know her writing process entirely. I've seen a couple of interviews where she kind of touched on it, but she seems to me somebody that she's kind of like a joyful writer who wants to have fun with what she's doing, even if the subject matter might be a little weighty at times, but she is still having fun doing it, and that comes through.
Well, I'm definitely gonna have to check that out. I mean, at least 2 podcasts I listen to have mentioned it, and I see it all over the place. So I'll definitely check that out.
And it's a quick read, but it's a beautiful read. It's absolutely it's one of the. I mean, I don't reread a lot of books. This is already gone. I put it on my reread pile after I finished it, and I've already picked it back up to do the reread. So it's well worth your time. And I forgot what I was actually talking about beforehand. This. I don't think it matters. We're in year 35 of a pandemic, so
that's right.
We don't have to stay linear.
No.
I always warn people my brain doesn't work in a linear manner anyway, so it doesn't matter to me.
What is time?
What is time?
Yeah. Whenever I'm at a job, I have to warn people before I start a presentation or something. Like, my brain does not work in a linear way. You will find this out as you get to know me. Just bear with me. I will get back to the point eventually.
Yeah, and that non-linear aspect plays into my writing a lot because most writers will think of the end, the middle, the beginning, and it's all out of sequence anyway. It's just like filming a movie. So, if I'm going to be a pantser, which I am, I might as well not even worry about progression from beginning to middle to end.
Right.
Me, I worry more so about once it's done, does it flow together?
Right.
And that's my big thing is flow and joy. If those two are present in the story, in the book, then I'm satisfied.
Nice.
Before we move from this topic, do you have any tips for people who want to develop a very distinct style like that? Because we have a lot of writers that listen to us.
Read a hell of a lot more than you do. You might think you read a lot. Read more than that. That's the biggest tip because everybody has a certain style. It's just part of who they are as they grow into who they are. But the more you read, the more it's flavoring. You realize I like more hot sauce. I like more Tabasco. I like more cumin. Books like Harlan Ellison, Toni Morrison, get everybody in you and taste what they're doing. And then you don't so much mimic their style, but you take little bits of spice from each one and you add it to yours. And it becomes this whole new recipe, this whole new stew that you can serve everybody. And, I'm mixing all kinds of metaphors, but that's another thing. It's like, I'm one of the few people, I don't give a flying fuck about a mixed metaphor. I'm one of those, it's like, I know what you're saying if you bring in metaphor A and then you cross it with metaphor B. Yeah. I still know what you're saying. It's not like, it's almost like when people argue about canon in certain things. Yeah. It's like, well, this metaphor here is not canon with that one. It's like, screw you. They work. I don't need it to be lockstepped and divided. No, I believe mix it all up and put it on a plate.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think as things move forward, you got me thinking about genre when you mentioned canon. Everything is just mixed with everything now. I mean, 20 years ago, it was a totally different story, right? But now you've got whole publishers that are based on that. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. And I love that everything is mixing because essentially those genres, those divisions were a means of violence. And a way, I say that because it was a way to keep very rigid fences to keep certain people out. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. So now that everything is mixing, those fences are dropping and people are just writing cool ass stories.
Yeah. Right.
I don't need to be told by a marketing department that this is a story I want to read because it was just like that story I read before. No, I want the marketing department to shut the hell up and let me explore. Let me run around the playground and find cool stuff.
Yeah. Like, don't tell you what you can write, just sell what you do write, right?
Right. Or if you're going to have these divisions, make them actually mean something, which is almost impossible to do because, again, they're arbitrary divisions. It's like the division between literary works and genre works. Again, that was to keep, those weirdos doing science fiction on one side. Yeah. And then these people who are writing about college professors having affairs with their students on the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the most annoying distinction to me. But I want to get back to your writing again. I think Kat mentioned it earlier, but there is a certain kind of joy that pervades your work. And definitely 100% noticed it. Hope and joy, I would say. And I noticed it in Afro Puffs quite a bit. Why is it important for you to include that in there?
Because it's all around us. Joy and hope, especially hope these days, is taking a hit. People think it's some soft, marshmallowy thing when hope is a battling mofo. Hope kicks ass on a regular basis. And the evidence for that is the fact that we are all still here. We are still here and we are still moving toward something better, despite all the, I don't even want to say his name, despite Dope 45 and everybody else out there who seem to be intent on pulling us back down into the mire. We never get there. We are never as low as we think we are as a species. Mm-hmm. So that's where the joy and the hope comes from for me. And if I didn't include that in my books, I would be doing the readers a disservice because, I would be telling them the same lie that our 24/7 news cycle is telling us, which is that it's all shit. Mm-hmm. Everything is bullshit. And no, everything is not bullshit. And even when you're going through bullshit, as we are in year 35 of the pandemic, we still stop and have our moments of joy.
Yeah.
We stop and we talk about the run of X-Men that was the best run of any comic series ever. And we will never mention the fact that they tried to do not Days of Future Past, but the Dark Phoenix X-Men movie. That was a dark timeline where that happened.
Oh,
We're not going there.
We're not going there. No.
Okay. Explain that to me, because I'm not the X-Men fan that you two are.
Well, you know about the X-Men movie franchise.
Uh-huh.
And so they tried to do a Dark Phoenix movie, and I think they just took one movie to do the entire Dark Phoenix saga.
Yeah.
And it,
it was so terrible.
Let me stop and just let me recenter myself. It's one of those movies. It's not even one of those movies where you wish you had your time back. It goes deeper than that. This movie hurts you on a genetic level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy hell.
I mean, the reason it does is because of what it could have been. When you look, it's almost like what was the movie that came out with Sean Connery from Moore's book, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen?
Oh, that could have been so good.
Could have been so good. But you went into that theater so full of hope and joy.
So full of hope.
And you left just you left like a family member had done you so wrong.
Yeah. I do remember that
and
one.
Okay, take the memory of that and apply it to Professor X and Jean Grey, and just let me pause and let you weep for just a moment.
Yeah.
And that's why Alan Moore doesn't let anybody make movies of his books, right?
But doesn't he, like, nowadays he's like, yes, give me the money and then I will never speak of it again, I think is his attitude.
I know for a long time he hated the movies, and he wouldn't let him do the movies.
Well, he's like, isn't he also, and this is me, like, isn't he also like a wizard? He believes he's a wizard, and he and Warren Ellis, and he are in like some sort of magical duel.
I've heard that. I thought that was just like an internet joke, but it might not be these days.
I think they're serious about it, but maybe not.
I don't know about the Warren Ellis part, but Alan Moore definitely thinks he's a wizard, for real.
Okay.
Okay. And we are not going to take his wizardry away from him. Like,
no,
not at all.
Because he looks like one.
He does. He does. I take it. Are you two Alan Moore fans?
I like his stuff very much.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, to me, he peaked with the League book.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
For me, that was like, okay, you're not going to get any better than this, because I might need to reread it because it's been a while and see if it, still holds. But I think it still will hold.
Well, you know what? For me, the best Alan Moore of all time was when he was working on Swamp Thing. Do you remember that run? Because that was possibly, if I'm thinking of like my favorite run of comics of all time, it could well be the Alan Moore writing Swamp Thing run.
I remember him working on that, but since that was DC, I didn't read it. I was a man thing.
Oh my God, you have to read it because it is just so good. It is amazing. It is amazing.
See, now that I've reached this age of maturity, I can go back and enjoy these things that my impetuous youth just like.
Yeah, I have heard those are really good, and those are on my to read list. To read someday list.
In your copious free time.
Yes, and all that free time I have. Yes.
Yeah, so I think we were talking about joy.
Joy,
yeah.
Yeah, and even in Alan Moore's work, which you don't tend to think of him as being a joyful person, but you get joy in those as well, even though the subject matter is not a joyful subject matter.
No.
So, and joy doesn't just necessarily mean rainbows and sprinkles. It's just the fact that life, like I said, life is not 100% bullshit. That in itself elevates you toward joy.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's not to harp on the swamp things, but one of the issues there, he's using Walt Kelly's Pogo, and it is just a tremendous issue. And you can see that he just absolutely adored Pogo, and he's got so much of the kind of the language and the cadence, and it's a beautiful issue.
Okay, I'm definitely going to seek this out now.
Yeah.
Because just the combination of Swamp Thing and Pogo is got me giddy.
Oh, so good. So good.
So Zig, earlier in the interview, you mentioned that you were an indie writer, or that you were independent, I think is what you said. Well, let's talk about that a little bit.
Yes.
So you have your own small press, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Obsidian Sky.
So how did that come about? Was that like I'm tired of all this bullshit, I'm just going to publish myself, or did you, I don't know. How did that go for you?
It was a little bit of that, and a little bit of seeing friends who were writing these marvelous books and marvelous stories, and they were still not getting published. So I said, you know what? These days the technology exists where I can do it, because I've got enough people that I know excellent graphic designers, layout artists. I can kind of get a consortium going, and let's see what happens. And so that's how Obsidian Sky was born. So far, besides my own stuff, I put out a short story collection for Anna Tambor.
Nice.
And I just absolutely love her writing and her stories. She's one of those writers, again, where she gets in there and she's like, I'm not explaining shit to you. You're going to get in this story. I mean, almost like it's okay, tangent.
Sure.
People give writers a lot of grief now for that. But that used to be the mark of a hell of a good story. Harlan Ellison never explained a damn thing.
Right.
That and lots of writers, it wasn't that you had to stop and explain. The reader picked it up as they went along with the story. There's a certain trust between writer and reader. So, Anna does that. And I wanted to get her stories out there. And, we created the book together. And we knew we weren't going to make any money at it. I mean, that wasn't the point. The point was, we know that there are people who want your stories because they have reviewed the other collections and they're like, where's more? We want more. So we know there's a small audience out there that wants these stories. Let's put it out there. We have nothing really to lose. And I do plan on doing more books, more collections from other writers once my brain and the world kind of settles a bit.
Yeah.
But, there's a certain freedom in doing indie work. There is, again, to use the word joy, there's a certain joy in doing it because I don't have a marketing department looking over my shoulder. And there's a certain thrill of risk because everything is on me. Everything is on my team of people putting this out there in the world. It's almost like guerrilla writing. Yeah. And I love that. I love it. I would rather be read by 100 people who are really invested in what they're reading and then be read by, 1 million who by the time they're done with it, they've forgotten it.
Yeah.
Wow. I can't tell you how much I relate to that as being a like indie podcast guy. You know what I mean? It's just, I feel you 100% there. 100%.
Yeah. Sometimes it gets down to give the people what they want rather than give the people what marketing says they want. And I know I harp about marketing a lot. I used to work at an advertising and marketing club in Detroit. So I've been around marketing people and the meetings. I've heard the word synergy so many times that I could just die right now just having said it myself. So it's not that marketing doesn't have a place. Marketing has a place. If I get a trad published book out there, I want it marketed to high heaven, but I don't want it marketed in such a way that it takes the soul away from the book, that it just strips everything away and turns it into nothing but a product.
Yeah.
And that's what I see a lot happening. I see there've been some brilliant books out in the last few years that were marketed in such a way that it just made me not want to do anything with them. Because I know that the more sometimes a book is hyped by marketing departments, the more that book has veered away from what the author wanted it to be. I know that the editing department got its hands on it and said, we need sparkly vampires somewhere in this book.
Yeah.
Sparkly vampires. And the writer's like slitting their wrists because they don't want to give them sparkly vampires, but at the same time, there's a contract. So they give them maybe one sparkly vampire. But you can tell as you're reading it, they did not want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask you for an example, or you don't want to mention anybody? That's totally fine if you don't.
No, let's not mention, because that wouldn't be cool. I'm one of those people where I will fuss about like some big budget movie that's just pissing me off.
Yeah,
because that's like, those big budget movies are like, somebody on a subway walking past you as you sit down and they fart in your face. When it's bad, it's bad.
Yeah.
And so it deserves to be called out. But most of the time, if I'm reading a book and it's not like, John Grisham or somebody who is, again, big enough where they can walk past you on the subway and fart in your face. If it's not them, I'm just like, okay, this book wasn't for me. It didn't do it for me, so I won't speak on it. I do speak critically on some books, but most of the time I'm particular enough about what I read that, by the time I get to the end of a book, it's not going to be, oh, I didn't like that. I know whether or not I'm going to like it in the first couple of pages.
Yeah.
So if I get to the end, I'm gonna rave about it. It's like, and I spend most of my time on social media. That's what I do anyways, between showing covers of my Afro Puffs book, because I love that freaking cover so much.
Oh my God.
I'm talking about everybody else's stuff, because I and this isn't a spiel. This is me. I love when people get the cool stuff.
Yeah. Same. I mean, I think that's why I got into podcasting way back. You know what I mean? It's just because there was just so much cool stuff going on, and like it seemed like no one was really talking about it, and I felt like, hey, somebody needs to talk about this stuff. And I listened to some podcasts, and I was like, these guys are really kind of half-assed. I will also not mention who those people are. And, and I was like, I think we could do this better, and I want to just get cool stuff out there,
Yeah. I mean, it's like, it's cool. I made an analogy once about, people self-promoting their stuff by saying the McDonald's comes out every year and spends $1 million to let you know the McRib is back. You don't need to know the McRib is back. You know when you don't need to do that. So if McDonald's can do that, me and you can get on a podcast and talk about the fact that, there are writers out there you have never heard of. We can mention names. I want to throw out 3 right now. Patty Templeton. You need to be reading Patty Templeton. You need to Google Patty Templeton's name and read the hell out of what she's put out there.
Awesome.
C.S.E. Coney.
Yeah.
You need to be reading C.S.E. Coney. Minister Faust. You need to be reading Minister Faust, period. And you would not hear these names necessarily on some big podcasts who's talking only about whatever Oprah's talking about, or whatever is big. Now, I don't know if Oprah's book club is still big, but whoever is, talking about the latest on the New York Times bestseller list. They're the McRib. They don't need anybody talking about them.
Yeah.
But we need these smaller outlets. We need people like you who will get people who are passionate, who are fun, and who have put out work that will, I don't want to say will change your life. It might change your life, but it will definitely engage your brain.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And your work definitely falls into that category. I got to say that the first Jetstream book I read, I kind of had I had a little bit of trouble understanding where you were going with it. But by the end, I got it, right? And then I read Afro Puffs, and my brain was just like, oh, click into Jetstream mode. Here we go. Okay, I'm ready. And it just went straight in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love hearing that, because that's exactly how those books are meant to be read. I mean, the first one does take a bit to get to the rhythm of what's going on. But once you realize that it's basically, every Marvel movie up to that point, because this was first Jetstream book came out 2014, 15. So we hadn't had like a Marvel movie every other day, but we still had enough of them where you started to realize that these movies don't make any sense. It's so far-fetched. It's such a strung together mass of just amazing coincidences tied together with really good special effects and battle scenes.
Yeah.
So when you take that into account and you start reading Jetstreams, you realize that that's what the Brothers Jetstream is not so much lampooning, but pointing out the fact that, these big adventures are, they don't really stand up when you stop and think about them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's one of my peeves when it comes to creativity. Is like, if you're going to create a world, your internal logic has to actually make sense. You can't just, for the sake of a cool scene, just drop everything from before.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, as someone who's not a superhero comic book reader, or not much of one, like how do the comic books work and then the movies fail?
Comic books ask us to use our imaginations, and the movies tell us what to see. And that's very basic, but it's the truth. And there's a disconnect, because when you're using your imagination, it's a dream world. You're allowed to have certain inconsistencies, because the goal is not to show you something exact. The goal is to get you to feel something. You know, when Spider-Man lifts a building up to save somebody, you want to feel the weight on his back. In the movies, when Spider-Man does that, we're looking at the CGI to see how accurate it is.
Right.
And there's a disconnect in there. And that's to me the difference. You know, I used to read, the Hulk a lot, and I could imagine these scenes of the Hulk lifting up, a mountain or something. And in my mind, it would be so cool. And I would always say, of course, I wish there was a movie of this, but the movie will never approach what's in your mind. It can't.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved when the first Avengers movie came out, because it was a novelty. It was something new. It was cool. I'm seeing these characters come together, and that was cool.
Yeah.
But, then they started making Avengers and more Avengers and more Avengers, and they took away what was special about it. And to me, that's kind of sad. I mean, I know a lot of people are like, we're living in this golden age of genre where we can have 4 Star Trek series at once and 20, Marvel movies laid out within the next 2 years. And isn't that cool? We never had that before. And part of me says there's a good reason why we didn't need that before.
Yeah.
Our imaginations are not getting worked as much. We're being shown so much more, instead of just sitting somewhere and letting our brains do what our brains are designed to do, which is play.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned Star Trek there in the 4 different shows of Star Trek. If I could only watch one Star Trek show that's going on right now, which one should it be?
Oh, God.
Now we're not talking about the previous. We're talking about the new Star Treks, right? Like
the ones that are running like right now.
Okay, so of Strange New Worlds, of Discovery, of Lower Decks, of what's the one with the cartoon Janeway, Prodigy.
And I think Picard too. Did you mention Picard?
Oh yeah, and Picard, which is its own little weird animal. Discovery. And the reason being is Discovery right now is the only show of them all that is trying to do new things. Strange New Worlds. I love Strange New Worlds. It's fun. It's bright, but it's not doing anything that Star Trek hasn't done before. It's only showing. I mean, there have been certain episodes where they were lifting dialogue word for word from the original series.
Really?
And I mean, it's a fan service show, so that's what they're going to do. But if it's going to have legs, it's got to do more than that, because fan service only lasts you so long. Discovery is, I mean, I think the basic storyline where they're now like 900 years in the Federation's future.
Mm-hmm. So
they have no choice but to try to do different storylines, different storytelling methods,
mm-hmm.
a different feel to this. I mean, to me, Discovery, even though it's set 900 years into the Federation's future, it actually feels the most like it's a show set within the Federation.
Mm-hmm.
You get a feel for the Federation as being more than just this amorphous force for good. It's a place. It's a place full of people and wants and desires and hopes. And I love the fact that Discovery wears its hope on its sleeve, which again, that, people deride it because of that.
Yeah.
And that's the appeal of it. And that was the appeal of the original series. It was, I mean, Gene Roddenberry said it a billion times. It's about hope for the future. And in order to, go into this brave new world, this new future, we have to be willing to embrace new things. I mean, that's where the whole ethos of Star Trek is.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a long roundabout way to say watch Discovery, and then let me know what you think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go. So many good shows these days. It's hard to pick, you know. At first, I really wanted to watch Picard, and then I don't know. I heard some back and forth on it, and I was like, and I just kind of never quite got to it while watching other things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You know, do we want to delve into Star Trek? Because I could be here 3 hours talking about Star Trek.
Huh.
But I can be brief on Picard. Picard is a show that I'm not entirely sure why they made it.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's not. I mean, there's the nostalgia factor, but beyond that, I'm not sure why it exists outside of the fact that they knew people would watch it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a bad show, and there are some really affecting scenes in it, but you've got to wade through a lot to get to them. Yeah, I'm very interested to see this third season when they're bringing all the main crew back.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that'll just be. I mean, I will stop and fan a bit here. I will watch this third season just for Thirst Trap Worf. Because damn, that poster of him, just like, okay, yeah, I'm watching it just to see Worf.
I love that. Yeah, that's funny. You know, I'm kind of annoyed by the nostalgia shows, and I feel like Star Wars is the worst one about the whole thing.
Oh, Lordy be yes.
and you know, I mean, I used to love Star Wars, and I used to love Star Trek. I flip flopped a lot in my life. I was originally a Star Trek fan, and then I kind of moved to Star Wars, and then kind of back to Star Trek, but then back to Star Wars. I don't know, just throughout my life, and man, you know, like I have no interest in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. Zero. Like I can't even. I've tried to get myself excited, and I'm just like, I'll watch another Marvel thing instead of that. You know what I mean?
But will you watch the coming Greedo show? Because you know at some point there's going to be a show for Greedo.
Oh, God.
I was about to ask if you were serious about that.
I'm not, but in a way I'm scared that there is probably some talk. I mean, they're mining it to death.
Yes.
Let's just be honest. They are mining it to death. And at this point, all they've got left is Greedo. Greedo and Jabba in a road adventure. I mean, come on. We don't need that.
No.
We truly do not need that.
No.
But there's a conference room somewhere in America right now where people are coming up with ideas for the next Star Wars show. And somebody's mentioning Greedo. Trust me.
I do trust you. I believe it 100%. Oh, Lord. All right. So we are starting to get low on time here, but I want to ask you at least one more question about being a small publisher. Well, first of all, do you consider yourself an indie writer or a small pub writer, or how does that work since you're like the man at the publisher?
I guess if I've got to put a label to it, I consider myself an indie writer.
Interesting.
Because I don't generally, I mean, I know about myself, I do not write toward market. I can appreciate works that are written toward market, but my brain doesn't work that way. It's almost like I intentionally trip myself up if I'm starting to approach something that is a little too marketable.
Mm-hmm.
So I think of myself as indie, you know, forever poor, forever Charles Dickens waif asking for, you know, a pittance from somebody.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of cool with that. I mean, I joke online all the time about, you know, it would be great to sell a fabillion books and sit around and, you know, start up a writer's colony and stuff like that, which, you know, if I ever got rich, I would do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's nice to think about. I wouldn't say no to it, but that's not what gets a pen in my hand and sits me down in front of a pad.
Yeah.
It's that it is always going to be that sense of independence and fun and what, you know, almost like a Calvin and Hobbes thing was like, you know, Calvin wakes up in the morning and Hobbes is right there in his face. And he's like, what are we going to do today? And that's how I would approach my writing, that feeling of I don't need to be tethered to anything. I can be independent enough to do what will be fun for me and the readers.
Yeah. As an independent writer, I would say you're a pretty successful guy. You know, I see you at the cons, you know, you're getting into best of anthologies. you know all the people there. There's definitely a level of success I would associate with all of that stuff. What advice do you have for those indie writers that listen to this podcast?
Write in order to change yourself. You know, that's what writing does. You know, it changes the writer, it changes the reader. So when you get, I mean, well, Octavia Butler had a saying in her book, the Parable series, all that you touch, you change, and everything you change changes you. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, I'm probably getting some of that wrong, but that basically, that's how you want to operate as an artist. You want to change so that you're not just doing the same thing over and over, which leads you to not enjoying what you're doing. And so, yeah, my biggest advice to anybody out there is enjoy what you're doing and write to change yourself, and those go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I don't mean change yourself in any, you know, major philosophical way. That'll come if it comes. Just change yourself and question yourself. What are you doing? Why are you doing it? And be honest with yourself. If you are getting into the business of publishing because you want to become rich, stand in the mirror and laugh at yourself for a good long time. It ain't gonna happen. And yes, it might happen, but that's like the lottery. You know, you don't pin your hopes on that. And doing that just sucks away all kind of joy from you. So just have fun and enjoy first. Everything else flows from that.
Awesome. Thanks. Kat, before we wrap up, are there any questions that you have for Zig?
No, I've been enjoying this so much. It's just been so much fun to listen to him talk about writing. And of course, we don't usually talk about comics, so I was very excited by that part.
Yeah.
That was cool. I haven't had a chance to really get into a comic conversation in a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Zig. Well, we've got 2 questions that we ask everybody at the end, and you probably will remember this one, and you've answered it once before, but you know, over time, people's answers change. What is giving you hope right now?
I am seeing a lot more love coming from people. You know, people are not even acts of kindness. It's just, I see people stopping to enjoy things, you know, a love of the world that they are in, which is, again, leads all of us back to this notion that, you know, the world is never 100% bullshit. It never is. Even if it's 99.999% bullshit, it's still not 100%. And I think I'm seeing a lot more people start to live their lives that way, you know, because I've got this phrase that I came up with years ago to motivate myself. Despite everything, create. And I see that in a lot more people now, you know, just from reading their online posts and meeting some people. They are intentionally creating things in their lives, and not just art. They're creating moments, their gardens, relationships. There's this communal act of refuting the bullshit by creating something that is real and needed. And that gives me so much hope.
I love that. And I think I'm going to put that on my corporate sign-off message. Despite everything, create.
Yeah.
Anyway, so last question for you. Last question. Where can we find all of your cool stuff, and what new stuff do you have coming up?
Find me at my much neglected website, righton.com, which is WRITE on, then RIGHT on.com. Or you can head to obsidiansskybooks.com. All the Twitter stuff is easy to find me, but why would you? Because I'm just on there talking about my love for Rosario Dawson, basically. And new
Fair
stuff.
enough.
I just last week got a serialized sci-fi fantasy release on realm.com. Or no, realm.fm. REALM.fm. And they used to be Serial Box. So it's called Silver Wing. It's about dragon. Well, not so much about dragons, but dragons are in it because dragons make everything better. It's about aging, loneliness, and, you know, waste. And there's a lot of joy and hope in it. You wouldn't think so, with considering it's about aging, loneliness, and waste. But there's a lot of joy and hope. So do check that out at realm.com. That's the newest thing. I've got a novel being shopped around, so this will be trad novel. I'm working on the sequel to it now. That's a fantasy as well, about a mother-daughter witch team traveling kind of a sideways ancient Earth, and working on some short stories. So I am listening to what I tell myself, despite everything you create. I am, and it's not easy. I mean, there are days where all I do is sit around and eat chocolate-covered almonds and stare at my big toe. Which, if that's all I got in me, that's all I got in me. That's how I work it. But then there are days where I realize, the playground's open. So let's go run and play.
That's awesome. I'm psyched that you're doing stuff for Realm. I mean, I used to review their stuff like way back when they were Cereal Box, like back towards the beginning of Cereal Box. And I've always been a fan of what they were doing. I kind of have fallen off that train a little bit here and there, but I'm guessing I'm going to have to get back on.
You're going to have to get back on, brother. Yes. It's I think it's 6 episodes, 30 minutes each episode. So it's not a huge investment of time, but I think you'll dig the story.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to have to check that out. I tried to listen to all Malka Older's stuff on there, but she had so much stuff coming out that I just got behind and couldn't keep up.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. Well, thanks for spending so much time with us. We appreciate your time and love talking to you always.
This was a blast. I loved it.
It was lovely. Thank you for doing that.
It almost felt like being at a con.
Okay, and that was our interview with Zig Zag Claybourne. Before we continue on, don't forget to share our podcast with your friends on Facebook or Twitter, or if you see people in real life there would also be cool. You can rate or review us anywhere that you listen to the podcast. That would be helpful. And if you really like what we're doing, check us out on patreon.com/ifthisgoeson. You can help us out on a monthly basis there. We have all kinds of different tiers. Talk about this every month. We've got a Discord. I do 5-minute book reviews every now and then, kind of extended book review. Our patrons can vote sometimes on who comes on the show. We got all kinds of good stuff there. Oh, and you can get a discount to Kat's School for Writers there.
Yes.
Which is well worth the value all on its own. So you should come and check that out. If you don't want to do that, that's not in the cards for you. Totally understandable. The world is a hot dumpster fire right now. Totally understandable. We also have a Ko-fi account. That's Kofi. You can check us out there for a one-time donation if that's how you feel. Kat, Zig Zag. What do you think?
So awesome.
He's such an awesome guy.
He's got such a lovely outlook on life, and the whole kind of like create and kind of embrace joy is, I think, such a great message in today's, as we said, dumpster fire of a world.
Yeah, he does. And it shows in his work, as we've already mentioned. Mm-hmm. And if you were ever to meet him in person, I did meet him one time before I even knew who he was, actually. And he just like exudes the joy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I really connected with what he had to say about being a publisher. I often feel like that's pretty much what we're doing here. We're just kind of doing this for fun. Mm-hmm. I don't think we ever really expect to make any money out of it. It would be great, but that's not the expectation, and it's about creating something that people will enjoy and make their lives better, right?
Right, absolutely.
And I also enjoyed the comic book talk.
Yeah, I will talk about Avengers and Defenders and X-Men and particularly Swamp Thing. I have a big box of comics, which has a lot of my favorites in it. And when I went off to grad school, I sold off most of my comic book collection, but I kept one huge long box of them. And I go through them every once in a while because some of those are just tremendous writing. Yeah,
and I always forget that you're a big comic book fan because, I think Cat Rambo, literary fantasy, now has a book published by Tor. Yeah. 300 and whatever huge number of short stories that you have. I never think about Kat loves comic books too,
I do. I very much so, in fact. Yeah.
That's awesome. We need to have a comic book episode once. We'll have like 2 guests who actually know what they're talking about with comic books. And then I'll just sit in the background and like DJ, you know what I mean? Just like make sure all the buttons are pushed right, and then you all talk about comic books.
You know who we might be able to get who would be fun is Gene Ha. Do you know
Gene Ha?
Gene Ha, he's a comic artist based in Chicago. I'll send you a link to his stuff. He's super nice.
Oh, cool.
Really
That would be awesome.
Yeah, he'd be awesome.
That'd be awesome. Okay, cool. We'll do that. So, I mean, I think that's it for this episode. Thanks to everybody for listening, and hope you enjoyed the episode.
Yep. Thank you for listening.
If This Goes On, Don't Panic is edited and produced by Alan Bailey. Our theme music is by Father Flamethrower. Additional music is by Christopher Snydrowski. And outro music is by Sable Aradia. Intro by Dave Robinson. Transcripts by Jasmine Geelink. A special thanks to our guest, Zig Zag Claybourne. Thanks for supporting us, and we'll see you again soon.